Hey everyone, welcome to Bourbon Over Break. Oh my gosh, I'm not starting with that one take. I can't even say bourbon over baseball right now. Hey everyone, I'm Jeff and welcome to Bourbon Over Baseball. We are going to be continuing our conversations on the 2020 Custom Set League that I have been talking about a lot lately. And on that note, if you have been listening to these podcasts, like especially about a league that you're not in, that is so badass. And I need to shout out all of those listeners that are doing that. I can't say how cool that is. Just that you're a fan of this game and you're involved listening to me just rant incessantly about an old retro baseball card game. So my gosh, bless you. You guys rule. It's been really cool over the past, handful of weeks to just see a lot of more engagement and just being able to chat with more people. So on that note, we're going to continue talking more about the 2020 set and going to do something a bit differently today. This is actually more of a throwback in the bourbon over baseball world. So back in the day, our boy Bob, name on the masthead, the creator of bourbon over baseball, he did leagues that I was in, joined later, but he used to bring on the teams onto the podcast to just talk showdown, talk about their team, and just general conversations. And I thought I did one. I didn't. I'm glad I didn't, because I don't want you guys to go find how probably horrible I was at showdown and didn't know anything back then. But thought this was with this league, and given how there's been a lot more going on with it and people are paying attention, which is great, thought it was a great opportunity to bring this back and to bring on some teams and some managers to talk about their teams, and also just their showdown experience in general. So we had already kind of done it with myself, with Win Dance Repeat, with Matt of the Cleveland Steamers, and with Bob of Cleveland Tribe. So we were just going to continue it and bring on another team from the league to talk. So we have the Ducks on the Pond, which is the manager of Nate Proch. So Nate, what's up, man?
What's going on, dude?
So it is, you and I have been, we're great buddies. We have been talking showdown for a solid year plus at this point.
Since you sold me the Pedro.
I was going to bring up about how we did some deals and I was like, I hope I didn't just like rip you off and all. No, I definitely didn't. But like, I was like curious to I couldn't even remember what it was. So
no, Pedro was a tough one to come by, and you had yours posted on eBay and I was already watching it. And then it just so happened that we crossed paths in the Facebook group and I bought it from you off on the side of eBay. And no, it was, I needed that one. I'm a Sox fan, man. That was a huge one.
Dude, that's great. That's my favorite. I love that you remember that card. And I remember, now that you bring that all up, I definitely remember that. And I feel like this is even a great opportunity to bring up that, like, you and I talk often about just like, about the showdown community, and there's a lot of great in it, but with any baseball card game, like, it's so easy for people to get ripped off, especially new fans. And kind of, I guess, almost just my rant of the day, like, if you're ripping people off, don't do that. Right. If you are new to the game, there's a lot of great resources and a lot of great people around to kind of get ideas on what's a good value on things. So yeah, I know you and I feel like we're just like scoping around trying to prevent people from getting ripped off. So I feel like it's worth bringing up.
I never hesitate to troll a garbage post in the Facebook group from somebody that's I won't say any names.
I'm not going to say names, but I'll bring up the situation. But like, we've seen situations where, if anybody knows, there's 2,000 starter sets come with Greg Maddux and David Cohn. They are beyond just the common cards. They are the most, they're everywhere. Like, they're not worth anything. Like, they're worth probably less than most of the regular non-foil cards. But, we've seen multiple examples of different people trying to sell them for way above what they're worth. And yeah, every Nate goes in, he's like, what are you talking about? And it's my favorite. It brought me so much joy. And yeah, not everybody probably caught it, but my gosh, it's fantastic. So anyway,
look,
great example.
I'm all for the moving and shaking and making a buck on showdown. If you know the market, I'm all about that. But with a card like Greg Maddux, it's just like, come on, man. That's just, come on. Come on. Stop.
Right. It's like when we see eBay listings, I see an eBay listing for Jose Silva, in 2001. He's a Pittsburgh Pirates starting pitcher. Super. It's actually a great card for what it is, but it's always listed for like $4 or $5. And I just like always get a chuckle out of it. I'm like, what is this? This is not worth this guy's time to even list it.
Yeah.
And especially in the community where people know that that a Greg Maddux card is not worth anything. So anyway, side rant, but dude, it's great to, we've been chatting Showdown forever. We finally did have the opportunity, to kind of, we got you into TTS, and you really got into TTS and our tabletop simulator. And it's been awesome to kind of have you, we got, so for anybody who's listened to our to our 2001 National League Only podcast, this little story, I guess. We had one team that the guy drafted and then just went, totally AWOL. Not like we heard from him, not like, oh, it was too busy. Hey, work is crazy. I had a kid. Like, we just like, this guy drafted a team and then just like, it was like vanished, which is like, I don't know if we should be nervous, but could not get a hold of this guy. So in any case, we were, I was playing out those games, but we were trying to find someone to kind of take over the team. And it was just perfect timing at that point that, met you, Nate, and said, hey man, how would you feel about taking over the team, kind of getting at least this really, that league was kind of almost a beta test for us to see if tabletop would work with Showdown, which it does, in a league format. And it was kind of a great opportunity for you to learn how we play and get back in. And so took over the team, made some slight changes, I would say, things that are interesting knowing now leading into the team you drafted for 2020. But yeah, no, so that really worked out. And I guess, more than me talking, I guess, like, just give me, I guess tell listeners like your background, like, your Showdown fandom as a kid, getting back into it, kind of that whole, that whole story.
Yeah, man. For me, it started with the 01 set when I was a kid. I collected it and played the game a lot with my friends. I remember birthday parties based around the game, but it eventually turned into kind of like flipping cards on eBay when I was a teenager. I knew the sets really well, and people were kind of getting out of the game when it got discontinued in like 06, 07. And so I was scooping up people's lots and selling them off, but keeping the stuff that I wanted for my own set, which was pretty cool when you're 13 and you're like getting the nastiest cards, but also making a few $100 on the side. So that was kind of like the little bit older me enjoying it. And then I put it away for a long time, didn't really touch it for probably 10 years. And then just happened to find my cards right before the pandemic and posted some stuff in the group, how I met you and a bunch of the other guys, made some deals, sold a couple of my more valuable cards that I didn't really care about, and then used that as seed money to go and round out my 01 set, and then I finished the 2000 set as well. So the 13-year-old me would be super, super stoked about that, making him proud. So have had those, and then met you guys and got intrigued by kind of the new sets. I wasn't really sure if I was going to, because the nostalgia is such a big part of it for me. So those older cards are awesome to just kind of have that memory of something that I enjoyed so much as a kid. But you guys do a sick job with these custom sets. So when I heard that you were putting together TTS and a way to play digitally, and I really hadn't played the game in probably a decade, man. But I had never lost the love for it. So an opportunity to play online, and you guys asked if I wanted to join that league. And I was just like, yes, man, absolutely. Let's do this. Let's play. And I just got hooked beyond what I could possibly have imagined. And so obviously you're going to be interviewing Lasky at some point, but Lasky, who is Kyle Lasky, he's the owner of Angels in the Trout Field. He's one of my best buddies from college, and I introduced him to the game mid-pandemic via TTS. So he had never seen the cards before. He had never played. He didn't own a single card. So his introduction was the old sets scanned into TTS. And yeah, we've played somewhere between 100 and 150 games on TTS over the last 6 months, I'd say.
Yeah,
so.
you get so we keep track. I'm a big data guy, and I just love telling stories through data. And I've been keeping track of every game that myself and like pretty much everybody in our leagues have been playing on tape, mostly on TTS. Nobody's really playing in person yet, but eventually I'll keep track of that. But I thought I had it all logged, and then you shoot me a note and say, hey man, like, I don't know what format you wanted in, but I have like 100+ games between Kyle and I that I need to log. And I was like, what? Like, what the hell? So I was like, this is a problem I wasn't expecting. But yeah, I think like I was like, yeah, I played the most games of tabletop this year in Showdown, and then like I realized I'm probably a third of you and Lasky's numbers. So it's just, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's freaking incredible. And I think like I mean, especially, with Japes, like one of the guys who created, the guy who really created the tabletop. And again, I only helped with the scans, but, I guess we just both all felt like this was, at least for maybe not a ton of people, like a limited crew, but man, I see tabletops within Steam screaming at me how many hours I've played it. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Yep.
it's like, I thought I played
think
Skyrim a lot, but no, I've played this, probably more. So
you introduced me to TTS and you showed me how to use it when I was up in Maine, if you remember. And
yeah.
I think that in that first week, I logged like 70 hours in the program.
And you were just like grabbing cards out and stuff, right? Just like,
yeah, I mean,
within the game.
I was sorting the sets, and when you had first introduced it to me, the only thing that I'd ever played online was in high school. And for reference, I'm 29. So, again, it was over 10 years ago. Yeah. And it was a dice simulator, and they were little, I don't even remember what the program was called, but you would just scroll over it and it would show the chart, but there was no picture and it was super rough, but I loved the game enough that it was worth it. So when you guys showed me TTS as a digital version, it was the video game version of Showdown I'd always been waiting for.
Right. We've talked about how, like, we could not play in person, right? Like there's a lot of Cleveland people that I would love to go play in person with, but we just, we absolutely could not do it with COVID. And, I think there's a lot of, we kind of, it's been hard at times to get people to convert to TTS. I'm sure you've seen that a little bit too, but I think the people that are playing are the ones who definitely get that. Like, this is, I mean, not just like close, it's remarkably close to playing in person.
It really is, man. The physics of it, the way that the dice roll, the way, like, there is literally the ability to have a dramatic dice roll where it like teeters on the edge and then just rolls onto a 20 at the last second, flipping the cards, moving them around. I mean, it's a really good simulation of moving cards around the table and rolling dice. It feels authentic.
Right. And I've mentioned that it's not like when, of course, if you and I could play in person, like if it was just as easy to get together, would we? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'd love that. But, I also know that you live in New England and I live in the Midwest. And that's why I think like, yeah, my Cleveland buddies, like, we're all going to get back together and start playing probably at some point. But I also know that tabletop leagues aren't ending. The TTS leagues are going to continue because we all still want to play just remotely. So, I mean, tabletop existed pre-pandemic just because of that reason. So
and let's be honest, it's a niche interest too. So to be able to get people that are across the US and beyond, if it goes to that, but just being able to tap into a bigger pool of people that still want to play.
Right. Yeah. And I interesting point you brought up before about like seeing the custom sets, because it's interesting because I came into the game knowing that there were custom cards, but it wasn't the ones created by, it wasn't like it was we've talked about Colby in the past, and I think Matt, different Matt. There's so many Matts in Showdown. Oh my gosh. But they created some 2013, 2014, and 2015 sets that kind of came in, started playing them with Bob, and kind of became, I was like, oh, these are great. These are whole sets. Like I'm entering these into my Bible in my brain. And then I was with the guys when they created 2018, 2019, and 2020. And I've, by the time this drops, did an interview with Showdown Bot, who, with Matt Gula, who basically just, opened up the world of Showdown card creation to everybody. So, and I think like the whole concept of like, what card do you consider the right one? Like, I always think that's an interesting conversation, just because like the answer is like, it doesn't have to be very specific, and it can be any card, right? Like I almost wish there was more of a repository of, the Showdown Bot, just so, if I wanted to go and grab, this card that's already been created, it's there. And like,
that would be cool.
But yeah, so that's why it's really cool for you to come in and just see the sets we were already doing. And you could have, a lot of people, could say like, oh, like, I don't know how they created these, but like, at the end of the day, we're putting these cards on a table, a virtual table, and we're playing with them, right?
Yeah.
Imperfections or perfection in times, hopefully we're getting there. But, we also know that the Wizards of the Coast cards were absolutely not perfect at all.
Yeah.
So I think there's some human element to it.
At the end of the day, this is still a video game, right? It's like,
right.
This is meant to be arcadey. This is not meant to, it's supposed to be a fun simulation of baseball, but you and I have talked about how making the most realistic rules are not necessarily always the objective. You want it to feel like baseball without being too cumbersome.
Right. And then like we've talked, I talked about this with Macula, talking about that there used to be that elitism of card creation and the card having to be perfect. And I'm glad that a lot of that's kind of gone away with the Showdown bot, which is awesome. And, at the end of the day, like you said, it's a video game. Like the rules aren't going to be perfect. Maybe the cards aren't perfect, but if there's a chart and an on base and I accept the card as being all right to play with, then let's go. Right. And you and I have talked for a lot about that. So anyway, all that said, kind of a big introduction there, but that's some awesome info. But let's talk 2020. Let's talk not just the year. The year was the worst. I think we can both agree on that. But let's talk 2020 custom set, which if anybody hasn't seen, I've talked about it incessantly. Like I'll put it in the description below to take a look at it. You took over a team, did pretty well with it, almost made the playoffs. Just barely missed it, basically by like half a game, however you want to put it. So I knew, we talked back then, like you were ready to draft a team. Like you had been mentally preparing since that point.
I mean, as soon as you guys brought me in, I was super bummed that I missed that first draft, because drafting is the best. I mean, I've been an avid fantasy football and avid fantasy baseball for a long time. So we all know the draft's the best part.
Right. And it's like, and it's so funny. Cause like, tell me if you think of this, I've done all these podcasts, right? I've spent time making these Google sheets, these extensive stat keeping sheets. And it's funny because like the draft was only in total like a few hours, right? Yeah. And like you were making, and we were making I was making mistakes during it, right? But like the fact that the draft was so limited, but like is such a huge deal in the scope of our league, I think is just kind of part of the beauty of it. So, I love it. But I got to show this picture because it's so incredible. And you sent it to me. I think it was after the draft, but like I had heard references of it. I had heard references of the word you used even before we got in the pod. You called it your war room. And I'm about to show it right here. This was you got the, you had the cards printed for yourself. And you had it ready. I even got to say, I'm almost surprised that your whiteboard wasn't having like your draft picks and everything on it, like it was actual work things,
Yeah. But that was, so the additional backstory is that I was also having to do my fantasy baseball draft at the same time, which I found out about that morning, and which is something that I would usually do a lot of research for, if you didn't notice. But I had spent so much time prepping for this Showdown draft because it was different than anything, I'd never done anything like this before. So I was more excited about it. So like I'm way more invested in the Showdown draft, but I'm simultaneously using that laptop to do my my fantasy baseball draft. So that was why I had the two screens. But yeah, I mean, it would be embarrassing to show you my Excel sheets that I had prepped for the draft.
Oh no, I mean, one, you should have not told me that second laptop was, you should have said you were watching like prospect videos on some site, like on that other, like, oh, I was looking up this AAA prospect and does he run the bases well? And be like, what? Like still cards. Nate, cards on paper printed with charts. Like, come on, like got to bring you back. No, that's amazing. And yeah, like, I feel like you and Lasky, but definitely you, like did your damn, like I talk about, you did your damn research. Like
everything that I did, Lasky did the same. We were in it together. We kind of like, we got our physical sets at the same time, which was a couple weeks before the draft. And I think that was the trigger for me. I didn't even necessarily plan to prepare as much as I did, but it was like that little kid got unlocked in me. I had this 600 new cards in my hands with the foils. It was just really cool. And so I sorted them by position. And I just started to really understand them. And then Lasky and I played a lot of games in TTS, just doing blind drafts to kind of understand how the cards played. And, you know, obviously some of the things we'll get into is, you know, how do those really low IP starters play? And what do you need in your bullpen to be able to weather that storm? And like, where are things thinnest and thickest with availability? So we had a lot of fun with it. So no, I everything I did, Lasky prepared just as much.
Man, and yeah, it's I should almost mention, like, there was a range in this league. Like, you know, I feel like I actually should have done more research, but I was like, you know, if you can believe it, as commissioner, and I'm not lying, and everybody will say I'm lying, I wanted the draft to go probably better than I wanted my own team to be. So I, like, you know, I just had a strategy, and I was like, I'm just going to look at the cards when they're there. Right.
Yeah.
When I'm up to pick. And that's part of the reason why I was so psyched with back to back. But, you know, I know one other team, I'm not going to name names, but he said like, you know, I'm just going to look at the players while we're in it. And then some others, you know, had some stuff going on. But you guys, you know, you were ready, and I loved every part of it. And, you know, and I think it's honestly I love data. I love like use cases kind of, and I know it's very circumstantial in the world of Showdown and rolling dice, but I can't wait to see it once this league is done, how you and Lasky perform. And if anybody's hasn't listened to our division breakdowns, go listen to them. That's where we break down each team within the 3 divisions. But, you know, long story short version is, you and Lasky had probably 2 of the best teams in the league. And I just don't think that happened by accident. So, so let's take a look at this is just kind of a quick snapshot of the team. And I guess, you know, tell us about the draft, like how you think it went. Did things go to plan? Did things not go to plan? Did you make a mistake? Did you pivot? Like, give me just kind of I guess the thoughts there.
Do you want 1 minute or 1 hour?
If it were me talking, I would say 1 minute, but then talk an hour. So
yeah.
Give me the Cliff Notes ish version of it, and then I'm sure we'll talk even more about it.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, the biggest thing that we kind of did our research on was figuring out how these low inning pitch guys were going to play. And so between the low inning pitch and the 20 home run savings, which you saw me make some switches when I inherited the 01 team. I took Gagne with the home run. Like, I just like what you get in terms of salary savings with stuff like that. And then the other big takeaway from kind of analyzing the set as a whole was that there was a very big deficiency in stud hitters. There were only, I think there were like 25 10 on bases in the whole set, give or take. And some of them were unusable. Like, we saw Bryce Harper go undrafted. We saw Will Smith go undrafted, and for good reason. They just weren't worth their salary. So
for sure. Yeah.
I had the 4th pick, and I thought about trading it down because I wanted Garrett Cole. He was my favorite card in the set. He's 418 with a 20 homer. I just think he's the perfect card to have a homer on. So I was going to take him. That was my thought process. But when I realized that there was enough that I could pivot off of him, but there wasn't much to pivot off of if I didn't take a guy like Hayes. I mean, I was hoping that maybe I would get Soto at 4, but I knew that if he wasn't there, I would take Hayes or maybe DJ. Just a guy that has a nasty chart, 10 on base, just like good enough speed at B, and somebody that just was not going to be there in the 3rd round if you waited to get some of those just top tier guys. So that's why I went Hayes early. And then
right. And actually, and really quick, like, I think the one thing I'll note there, and I think Cole went the pick after you or 2 after you. I mean, he was gone.
Something like that. Right. Yeah, that's actually a good point, because I was thinking about trading down to 11 with
There's
Greg.
No
we had been, yeah.
Right.
And hoping that Cole would be there at 11, and he would not have been. So when he got picked, it was like, okay, you did the right thing there.
Right. And I think, like, my take on that is that this set was, you know, just giving props to the guy. I wasn't one of the creators, like, props to the boys of just basically, I kind of the 3rd wheel to them, to the card creators. they have been working on their formulas for years, and this 2020 formula, given weird set, weird year, not a lot of data, but it was pretty good in terms of like getting to the points. And one thing we realized was that cards like Cole, like there wasn't a lot of value. Like they're really like in the original sets, there was value. Like there was cards that for whatever reason should have been 180, but were 110. Like you have CC, which was kind of a cheeky move, but there's ones that, and like not even errors, like there were actual value picks. Like they just didn't weight things. They hadn't QA'd the set. We've done enough and we know. So like there wasn't really truthfully the ultimate value. There was value based on your perspective, but not based on the actuality. So all that said, Cole, like basically we were all looking for who were the anomalies, right? Not value, but anomalies, like players that didn't exist again, right? And I think that it's interesting you bringing up Hayes and Cole, because Cole is a true anomaly, right? The control 4 out through 18 with a home run, that card absolutely does not exist again, right? There's a couple like him, but not like that good, right? I mean, you're getting a crazy good tiered pitcher for cheap. But I think at the same time, and this is why I backed you picking Hayes, and I also can't believe he fell to 4, right? You were at 4, I think.
Yep.
Is Hayes, I think like in the conversations we had been having between like who would be hypothetically the first batter to go first. And it was really between like Soto, or it was 4. It was like Soto, Acuna, Freeman, and Hayes, which says hypothetically, if you wanted one of the 4, you would get him. But we all talked how Hayes was the best one. Hayes was number 1. Hayes was the best guy you should be taking. He is kind of, in terms of what that card is, he is an anomaly, right? So the fact that you got him at 4 blew my brains right a bit, just because I was like, that is the pick. That is the best pick. Like almost that was a value pick at 4, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if Soto was there, I would have taken him. I wasn't necessarily expecting him to be there, and I knew that Hayes was an unbelievable consolation prize. That chart for a 10 on base in this set, it just doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
The 3 outs, singling on an 8, and still having a ton of pop on the chart. You couldn't beat that. The only thing, my pivot off of him, because like the way that I drafted was on like player profile. It wasn't like position or like Alcantara was my pivot off of Cole. And I decided that I liked that pivot better than whatever I would have gotten instead of Hayes if I went Cole 1 and then hitter 2. Mm-hmm. So, so Hayes was just that perfect third hitter that wasn't going to be there. If I switch, that's what I was going to say. If I pivoted off of him, I was going to go Trey Turner, but he's got the 5 outs on his chart. And so Hayes was just super elite, and I wanted to not pass that up because I had a good feeling that Alcantara was going to be there on the way back. He was my target at 2, and I probably took him a little bit early, but he felt like the best pivot off of Cole for me because of walking to a 19. So you lose 2 outs, but he's still the 4 control. He only has the double. I mean, we all know that the way you win showdown is you get a guy on second and you get a hit. So to have those walks is, especially with the rules that we play, but to have those walks, I just love that chart. It felt like the right balance of the first 2 guys to take.
I totally agree with that. I think that he might have felt early, but I don't think he was. Who knows? Hypothetically, I could have seen, because you could have probably got him 3rd, maybe just because you were closer in your picks a little bit, in terms of the order. But I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I'm with you that we've always talked how walks are like, kind of 70% of a single in sense. So that's why there's so much focus. And there's a reason you went with Stephen Brault, right? And, has a ton of walks. And we all kind of have done that. And actually, super side note, I've been seeing a lot of kind of new rules, like different rules, just like get thrown around, which again, I love leaning into the arcadey aspect of this game. And it got me thinking that there used to be, I don't know who said this, but I know that in my wife's softball league, they used to do balls and strikes they had an ump there calling that, which was so foreign to me. It was just like hit the ball or don't. But if you got a walk, you got on second. And I kind of started to think of like arcadey stuff that like I almost want to run a blind draft where like if you get a walk, like that you go to second. It basically becomes a double.
I like that. That.
I don't know if we'll ever do a league like that, but my God, you would see the walk guys avoided. It'd be really interesting. So
those blind draft tournaments are the perfect time to try something wonky like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, Hayes is amazing. I mean, really, we talked about your team is there's a ton of balance. I think in the points you gave up salary, you still are succeeding at other things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even, Michael Watchett, like, 10-point starter, like, which I have basically three of them. I have 2 10s and a 30. So 110, and we're going to face each other. We're going to have the 10-point starter game. I can't wait. But even for that, I mean, I've always said, and I still believe this, that, you hope he does well. And if he does, holy shit, that's great. If he doesn't, it's 10 points. That's fine. And you have, Colomb and Hendricks and Watson to kind of back you up if that were to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was somebody that I'm just sorry, I'm pulling up the Excel sheet that you had from the different teams. Waka was a guy that I targeted early because he was pretty much unquestionably the best 10-point starter. He had combined 19 with his control and his outs, and just the one single to go along with the home run. So I like home run pitcher charts that don't have the double. That was something that you and I had talked about a while back. So I want it to be high outs because I'm already taking the risk with that home run. I want it to be that if I'm rolling hot, I'm getting outs on it. Waka's the kind of guy where for 10 points, if you roll well, you could get four shutout innings out of him. I mean,
for sure.
And that's all I'm trying to get. And so another big part of my strategy was that I liked these guys with lower innings pitched that it was kind of like instead of getting the salary break for the home run, you get the salary break for the low innings pitched. So that was one of the biggest things that Lasky and I were focusing on when we were playing the games in TTS was, how many legitimate bullpen arms do I need to get this, to bridge this gap and to not completely burn the bullpen. And so I know that at a glance, my bullpen might look a little bit thin because I really only have 4 guys, but that was why I took the 2-6 control guys. And that was why I took Watson's 130 points and Barnes is 20 or 40.
Barnes is crazy for 20. I mean,
those guys, I'm going to use those guys like they don't have home runs on their chart. And if it burns me, it burns me. But look how cheap my bullpen was. And I got Colomé and Hendricks in the last 3 rounds because all the good closers and relievers were kind of like shiny objects. There were plenty for everybody to go around. And so I just didn't, I just waited until the very end. Oh shit. Oh, sorry. I thought I accepted a call there. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
There we go. Okay. Yeah.
So bring him on, dude. We can bring on another guest. I don't know. Do they want to talk showdown? I doubt it. So
but yeah, so Colomé doesn't have that great a chart, but he's still a 5'18", and he was a second to last round pick. So I grabbed those 2 relievers in Watson and Barnes somewhere in the early third of the draft, I think. And then I had a feeling that nobody was going to touch guys like Brault. He's, from what we know about playing 2000 and 2001 showdown, a guy with a 515 with only 2 hits on his chart, that's an elite pitcher. That's Chan-Ho Park. So he, you got to imagine that he's going 5 for me most of the time, maybe 6. And then I get to a bullpen where even after I throw Hendricks or Watson for 3 innings, they're still a 416. So there's just never really a point, if the strategy works, that I've got a guy that's in there at less than a net 20. And I really do think that with those 6 controls, I've got those 3 really beefy guys that can go 3 innings. If in any given game you use 1 for 1 inning, 1 for 3 or 4, and then you do another dance the next game. And then with all that savings, I put it into my hitting and I just stacked my lineup, and that was kind of the game plan.
Yeah, you definitely. I want to talk about the lineup in a second. I basically what you're doing is almost like a condensed version, or what I think you could do is a condensed version of mine. That I have my relievers are probably too good, but I'm okay with it because I spent nothing on starters. I think in the world where you spent money on starters, there was definitely a balance between the bullpen. And in theory, you could just almost break up your pen to be, you could have Colomé and Watson and Hudson on one bullpen one, and then Barnes and Hendricks on the other, and you have Colomb going with maybe Brault, depending on, maybe it goes with Paddock and Waka, and then the other guys go with Brault and Alcantara. Like, I think that with our rules changing, that's going to be something we see a lot more. And like the good thing is you can always tap into them if you really feel like you need them to win that particular game.
Right.
And I think with the home run, like Greg of Win Dance Repeat had a lot of home run pitchers, totally worked out. You picked up, like we said, Eric Gagne and Paul Rigdon. Paul Rigdon did crazy well. He had a perfect game in 1 game through 5. Like, it was just like, he has a home run in his chart. Like, that's, I mean, it's fluky. If the guy rolls 20, it rolls 20. But if they roll 20, if it's doubles, you're going to probably lose anyway. So you might as well have them be home runs and save that money.
The way that I look at it is that, like, you look at a guy like Cole, who was, I think, 460 points, right? So a 418 is a net 22. I know he's got the homer, but that's only happening 5% of the time. And he's got the 18 outs, so he's really not going to allow a whole lot of base runners. So you're hoping it's solo shots. But to get another net 22, you're going to pay 660 at least. It's 200 points to get that elite guy. And I just think that when you consider that turns a 250 point hitter into a 450 point hitter, that I'd rather give that 5% chance on the homer. I just think that's the anomaly for me, is that I think that what you save there, and again, this is all opinion, and that's the beauty of Showdown. It's just, what's your perspective of value, especially since you guys have perfected the algorithm. But I don't know, man, I felt like the best place to put that was in my hitting. And I felt like good hitters were a scarce resource to get a guy like Iglesias in the 3rd round. And, I'm not thrilled. I'm a little bit slower than I'd like to be, but I love how low the singles are on my charts. And I've got enough B speed guys that if I can get guys to second, pretty much everybody on my lineup, which is really high on base, they've got low single charts. And so I've got enough guys in there with some pop to not be completely relying on base knocks. Like, I can have some guys that hit some dingers, but I don't know. That was the plan, was to get high on base and low single charts.
Yeah, no, I think your lineup, I think, kind of like I said before, like, the places you lost salary are fine. Adam Hasley being an 8 is totally great. I love that you got the actual DH pickup in Austin Slater, and the fact that your only speed A is your DH is just fantastic to me. Again, this set is so weird. It's just so weird. And I think you'll be fine. I think the speed C's is the problem. Speed B's are fine. Speed B's survive. They're usually, that's the question of, like, usually speed B's, on the way we use our speed rules, base running, going home on and things, like, they usually make it. It's speed C's that you have to think about. So, and you got some guys. I mean, Jeffers singles early. Dahlbeck is just a ridiculous card, but I love it. I wish he was on my team. Iglesias is great. Hayes is just going to be, I mean, Hayes you already had one series. He was great. He already has the most hits in the league. So not a surprise there. And I think, like, really quickly, the home run pitcher thing is, I think this was a perfect storm. And I know we've talked about it so much, like, this was not only a perfect storm just because, like, this set had so many home run pitchers, but then, like, we were all kind of slowly realizing, like, man, home run pitchers aren't bad. And so like, this set, like, not only, like, the last league, we had basically 1.5 teams have, out of 8, Greg's, and then yours, you had a couple halfway through the season. Now we have, like, I mean, I think I would say almost half the league has at least one pitcher that does this, at least one usable pitcher they're going to actually use, not just a punt. And
it's actually, we've got an average of 1.75 own chart home run starters on each team staff. And then the high was 3. That's you, Greg, and Matt. So you, Win Dance Repeat, and the Cleveland Steamers, you guys all have 3. But yeah, the average is 1.75. So the average is that half of the staff is home run pitchers, which, to your point, was very contrary to what I saw in the 01 league, but was obviously the route that I took even coming into that one.
Right. And again, a lot of it chucks up to the fact that this set was weird and 2020's season was weird. Good weird. I love it. I love that these cards are weird. I love everything about that season was weird. So that's all I want, and that's why we've only done like a handful of blind drafts with these, but man, they're just a blast to do that. And I think now that we know a lot more about each card, man, like these guys are like, this definitely happened with the 2018 set, which is one of my personal favorites, that as we just started playing more with them in more leagues, like these cards just like the originals, they start to cement in your brain and really start to bring, kind of excitement in a different way. Right. But yeah, that's everything. I love this team. I think your team is really good. I'm probably going to do a predictions podcast. I think I think your team's going to be pretty good. I think they're a playoff team. I think our division is, not weak, but I think that, again, we're all 5,000 point teams, but I think that your team seems like the clear number one to me. But I guess, what do you think about your division, the rest of the league, how you stack up?
I did listen to all three podcasts. I just finished the other one, the last one last night. But yeah, I mean, so the question is, does my bullpen strategy hold up for the whole season? Because that was where, I went as thin as I possibly could for pitching. Well, no, you went as thin as you possibly could for pitching, but I went what I thought was as thin as I could go with pitching and still be actually pretty dominant with pitching. And so the question is, do the dice reward me on the offensive side? But yeah, I like how I stack up. I mean, I did a lot of research, and it all kind of, I was able to get the picks, at least within the bucket of the prototype that I was looking for to fit. I wanted X number of star hitters, X number of kind of serviceable guys, like you said, Hazley, a 188 on base, and Nicky Lopez was my punt, getting +4 at second base for 20 points, and he still homers on his chart, which is nice when we play the mistake pitch the way we do. So yeah, I mean, I definitely, I like where I stack up. I'm really interested to see how your team plays, because your team it's like the really juiced up version of what I did. You just took it to a whole new level. But I agree with what you did, because I agree that there were a lot of useful 10 point starters, and the whole point is that you're expecting to get a lot of hits and to score some runs. So I think that we forget to account for being able to reset our bullpens when our offenses that we paid for do go off, and I can leave Brault or Paddock in for 7 innings and not worry if they give up a couple runs, So I think that as long as I don't get, too thin at the bullpen because of the strategy that I took with the low IP starters, that I like where I'll be at the end of the season.
Yeah. And I think in the scope of, again, us all having 5,000 point teams, I think what you did, I feel like, if, again, it's all somewhat subjective, but I feel like what you did was the exact right way to do this, which is you identified the kind of, like we said before, the one and only types of guys, pick them early, just like Watson, just like Barnes, just like Waka, which I've said wrong this entire podcast, but like you identified those guys early, and those were the guys you took early. And then, just like you said, and you're totally right, there was a ton of great relievers. There was not, like we said, like the good 10s went, but there were 10s left, and there were still good hitters towards the end. And there were also great starters still. I mean, there was you basically got all the guys in the first half that you were like, okay, I can't, these guys in my brain, the way I'm drafting, are irreplaceable. And then you filled the quote unquote replaceable roles with guys around there. And I think that, it's just it just worked out. It just super worked out. And yeah. So who did you already played your 1-2, who pitched your first and second game?
I'm going in order. So I've got Alcantara and Brault as 1-2. My hope is that they kind of act as back-to-back studs. And I know that was the other thing for me too. I know that there were some shiny toys to play with that starting pitcher, and you could get those super elite guys, but we're still just trying to win a showdown game. And it doesn't really matter if you give up 0 runs or 3 runs, as long as you score 4 runs. And so Alcantara and Brault are aces in every version of showdown that I've ever played. And to boot, we've got a set here with a much lower average on base than sets that we've played in the past. So like if you look at the average control of the staffs that were created for this draft, I think that both me and Lasky are on the lower end, but it was intentional because we knew that a lot of guys were going to have a lot of 8 and 7 on bases in their lineup, and they do. There's lots of teams that only have like 110 on base, and so made up for it with good charts. And I'm really excited to see if it plays out the way that I see it playing out in my head.
Right. It's so funny because like I think when we originally looked at your team, like the lineup was the most fascinating part of me because there was so much, like it's kind of, you said, it's kind of flashy, kind of fun, a lot of great guys in there. I love so many cards in your lineup. But actually now going through it more and just talking through it, like I think your starters are like, that is like truthfully the X factor. I think you could say that for every team a lot of times, but I think like I love Alcantara's great. I love that pick. Like in all ways. Brault is interesting to me because like he's incredible. I mean, for what he does, he is actually incredible for 380. And I get IP4 is not great, but then like looking at like, again, we dropped down a bunch of points, but like just the difference between Paddock and Watch It, like the fact that there is a 230 point difference for basically one control point and one IP, like that's where the 10-point guys to me just start screaming out of the draft saying pick me, and like there was a part of me that almost, if those like he was still around and more guys were still around, I was like ready to have 4 10-point starters. And you think, oh my God, what a disaster, like your team's going to be horrible, but he's out through 17 control too, like that's fine. We can make this work. He's going to have a bad game, but he's going to probably have some good games. Like
it's 0-1 Rick Ankiel with a home run for 10 points.
Right. That's where like, again, it might blow up in our faces. Maybe the home run, everybody rolls 20s and it doesn't matter. Like that's probably like, I probably could have named this league, like, home run at 20, like, but man, that's like the fact that I think your biggest crutch, like the biggest potential Achilles heel of your team is if 20s get rolled on some of your pitchers, I think that's a great thing. That's a great, if that's your worst problem, then holy smokes, I think you're going to be fine. But yeah, like I said, kind of earlier, I think getting all the managers on to talk about how they looked at this. And, I should have mentioned this before, and you and I said this offline, like, everybody looks at Showdown differently. And I think that's like, even though it's baseball, it's a nerdy card game, it's stats driven. Like we're all hitting on it from different angles. And I've said this before in previous podcasts that some people love baseball. Some people like trading cards. Some people like statistics. Some people just like rolling dice. Right. And I think, part of the beauty of this game is how people think about it and how they kind of just like formalize it in their head and think of conceived ideas and play it out. So that's why I'm just psyched to get all these managers on to kind of talk through that. So, this is, I feel like in our, in the span of our Showdown lives, this is like very much the beginning, right? So
absolutely.
But heck yeah, man. Nate, appreciate you coming on. This is great. Surprisingly did not go wildly over time. I honestly can't believe that. Because I felt like we could probably talk Showdown for the rest of the night. So, but appreciate everyone, or go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, thanks for having me. It's good to be on for the first time.
Oh, dude, heck yeah. And like, we've been talking to, like, you're probably anybody listening, like, you're probably going to see a lot more of Nate in future things. Hopefully we're trying to do a lot more with the podcast, as you can probably tell. And I think there's some great opportunities to bring some more people in to do some different things. So, but yeah, we'll, I don't know if you have social media or anything, but usually I plug it in the description. So if you have something there, it'll be there. If not, I'll put my stuff in there. I'll also put the 2020 set. And then I've always talked about our Discord, which Nate is in here as well, that if you are not in that, which if you're listening to this, you probably are, but if you're not and you want to, please hit the link below and join it. It's a great group, and we talk Showdown every day. So I guess any last thoughts you want to say? Actually, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't bring this up. I can't, I just like ended the podcast with almost without bringing this up. I have to say this quickly. After the draft, after we all kind of, kind of decompressed from drafting and did we mess up? Did we not? Nate texts me and says, I'm going 18-6. Which is one of my favorite predictions, specific predictions, maybe ever. Two, love you, Nate. Don't think it's happening, but
it's definitely not happening. And you got like, I've met you guys on the internet and you don't know my personality yet. I was being just like cocky and sarcastic and just being a smart ass. There's no way that the dice would ever allow for that. But yeah, no,
I wouldn't say that though. I went, what was my record? Wasn't I 4 and like 16 or 5? Like, so
yeah, that's true. You did have the reverse of it.
It is possible. I'm telling you, it is possible.
But I was really just being a smart ass, but I do really like my team. I do like my chances to make the playoffs and make a run at it. But man, if I could go 14-10, that would be awesome.
Dude, no, I love the confidence. Like, joking or not, like, be on it. Like, I think you believe in your team, maybe not 18-6, but dude, it's great.
I think small sample size, I think 14-10 would be an unbelievable win for a regular season.
I think you'll be better than 14-10.
I hope you're right.
But I got to end on this because I wrote this down. I'm glad I didn't forget. As both of us are, I'm just going to give you a quick fire single question, and you got to answer it quickly. Go to Ken Griffey Jr. baseball team that you pick.
Oh, for Nintendo?
Yeah, for 64. Which go-to team? Red Sox? Okay. They're really good. So whenever we get together post-pandemic world, we're booting up Ken Griffey Jr. baseball. You're taking the Red Sox. I'm taking the Indians. And we're just going to create a World Series that actually can't happen because they're in the same league, but I can't wait. So
I love it. Nomar's dropping dingers all day.
There's a lot of guys in Cleveland that can do that too, but yeah, it's going to be fun. But Pedro's going to shut me down. What are we talking about? So
yep.
Anyway, dude, great to have you. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.